I said, what are you doing? At most, the kids are going to go and watch a film at the weekend because parents don't allow children to see films in the middle of the week, the way the mad curricula is nowadays in schools. So the film flops. So therefore, they look at those numbers and say, look, children's films don't work. But cast your mind after that to how many times this film has been shown again and again and again on television, and the numbers are boggling, really mind-boggling. So I said, how much money do we have? Do you have? You have X amount of crores to make 5, that's your fiat, to make 5 children's films. I said, you're going to have to, at some point, understand that kids are not going to settle for anything which is tacky. Because their canvas of reference today is not just what we see in India. It's the 102 television channels. It's what you're pulling off the internet. It's the new trailer of Iron Man 17. Everything, right? Slightly rusted. So the thing is that I said you have to take a large portion of your money and put it in one film. But you know that I said you have to make that right. First, get it written in a way that children can't wait to hear the next thing. Have a narrative. Just have a narration with kids. Start there, and then really develop a terrific world-class product with most of the money. And to their credit, they were really up for it. And I don't know who's going to do it because there's no chairperson right now of the CFSI. So whoever it is who comes in there. But the CEO of the CFSI very clearly was totally on board with the idea that if we make one children's film to crack this chicken and egg syndrome, just one that, if we make that, then every producer will break down doors because they'll see the kind of numbers it translates into. However, it does mean you have to market it intelligently. You look at the holiday season, you find out, there's a whole universe around it. If you don't do it like that, and you just say, I've made a film, now release it, and slightly apologetically, it's not going to happen. But the legs and the hands certainly here, who stuck their hands up, who have watched Stanley Ka Dabba and Chain Kuli Ke Main Kuli, and I've been from the poorest of poor children in schools, in urban poor schools in Bombay, to the poshest schools, and this is certainly one, the numbers are the same. The child hand only comes down after I say, who's watched it 4 times?
That's a very interesting take, Rahul. And, just leading on a little bit from their films, Mr. Bond, your books have got so much visual quality in them. One can almost imagine them coming into films. Yet, so few of them have been made into films, and not really children's films, so to speak. Flight of Pigeons certainly cannot be, Junoon is not a children's film. Yes. The Blue Pop.
You're quite right, but I must tell you that over the years, I think I probably sold 2 or 3 stories to the Children's Film Society, and they were never filmed, though they actually bought the stories from me. And there were 2 gentlemen, a Bengali film producer and another who actually made films, one on a story of mine called Ghost Trouble, and a Rusty story. But they must have been pretty bad because he couldn't get a distributor. So as you say, you need a high quality picture to make an impression.
And talking of high quality pictures, therefore, I think Rahul, Samit, any of you can take this, even though it's related to films, is why is our, the quality of technology that we use, why is it so erratic? And, there are films like Krish and Rawan that seems to, sort of, again, coming back to your point, hero con hai, so Hrithik Roshan and all of that, and Shah Rukh Khan. They managed to, again, big producers managed to get the money. But again, with children's films, we're not, the quality is so erratic. Why do you think that is?
The thing is, though, that when things like Ravan and Krish are made, I think their producers see them as children's films. They intend for those films to be seen by children across the country, and they are. But unfortunately, the purpose of that is to sell toys, right? So very little effort goes into making a story that a child who has seen, the best of world film and TV and animation, and if you look at the small people, as opposed to children in this room, you show them films like this, they'll watch it if they have to, but they won't remember it because they've seen better, they've read better, they've played better, you know. But the thing is, there's enough people out there who haven't seen better for these films to make a huge amount of money, so they can play it safe on all these fronts. So many Bollywood films are seen by the producers as, oh, we're making films that a 5-year-old could understand, except that they're trying to sell these films to adults. Um, so, and there's no shortage of good people in any of these industries. If you look at, say, our animation channels, and I don't know any good Indian animation show for children, right? But I've met several of the people who produce these shows, who run the channels, who make these shows, and my first question to them has always been, why do you make such garbage in India? You don't seem like a stupid person. And it ultimately boils down to things like money. Their channel partners, wherever else in the world, only see India as a place to get easy advertising, will not give them the resources to make good things, will not be serious about good writers or good artists, will just, how many of you seriously like Bal Ganesh? Yeah, exactly. So, but it's a hugely successful show. They don't put any effort into the storytelling of it. They make some toys. Kids have to watch something. They'll watch this garbage. That's fine. We don't need to try harder, is the attitude.
I think that's because, as I said, it goes to my fundamental point that children are not given the respect that adults are in this country as purveyors of, as people who consume fiction and creativity. The other thing is, the reason why the quality of children's films has been so erratic is because they are substandard filmmakers. And the reason why they're given to substandard filmmakers is only a substandard filmmaker will say, I'll take a Ruskin story and make it for 50 lakhs. Whereas if you gave it to Rajkumar Hirani, he would say, sorry, I need 5 crores for this. So there's nothing wrong with our technology, and there's nothing wrong with our writers, our none. You just have to go to the best. Why would you not? So my sort of evangelical thrust nowadays is to try and make the industry understand that it's a massive, lucrative financial market. And that's the only way I believe we're going to crack this.
So Rahul, how are we going to take it to the best? Why are the best not taking Rusty's stories? Why are they not doing, when they know there's a huge captive audience? I'm sure they do.
Look, I think it's deep down they believe that they won't be taken seriously in their filmography. If they've made all these wonderful serious films, this children's film will be seen as, oh, you were on vacation, so you made a children's film. And I think that mindset has infected the entire, from top to down, in this country. Till such time someone says, this will be as hefty and taken as seriously. Look at some of the greatest filmmakers in the world and see the kind of, have you seen Hugo, anybody?
Yeah.
Wow. It's Scorsese, right? So, it wasn't that Scorsese was on vacation. It's a painstakingly made film. You can see how much effort has gone into it. Forget about the money. That has to, and I've already started. I've started talking to directors, started talking to producers, and I'm saying, look, let's do this. I've already started, without anybody telling me, writing a children's story. Because I said, how do we crack this and let the kids imagine? So, it's set in Bombay. And so I'm looking at how to actually sort of set the ball rolling. And I decided the way to do it was if I had a story. And then I would go to people and say, hey, because there's no point talking in the air. So I said, I'm going to write one and then see what happens with it.
So, one of the things that I have for the young people in the room as well is, would you not have a voice to say what kind of films you'd like to see, what kind of books you'd like to read? And how do these young children talk? How do they communicate this? I guess through the education system. And therefore, is the education system allowing this voice to move forward? I don't know. I'm going to leave that open, and maybe, in the course of question answer time, ma'am, if you'd like to sort of say something about it. Because I think the children have a voice too, and they should be able to say what they want to watch, what they want to read, and that would, get authors, that would get them to, see, they're going to keep writing. People like Samit are going to write. But when they understand kids, I'm sure, they'll probably not write what they want, but they'll be motivated to write more and more and more. Rahul, do you agree? Samit, do you, what's your take?
No, I think there's. How many of you are on? How many of you read fan fiction? Okay. How many of you are on Instagram? You're all on Instagram. You're lying. And Google Plus. Google Plus. Yeah. No. So, and these are the places where their voices are being heard, where they're expressing their opinions sharply. Most people, even if they don't have an account in their own names, have accounts where they're just putting, pictures of Sherlock and Doctor Who and things like that. I mean, a lot of my friends have kids in this age bracket, and they have this vibrant community where they're constantly exchanging ideas. They're not looking at the education system to provide them with any answers because they don't believe that the education system understands them. In Kolkata, it's fine. Any school that has a reading society, a theatrical society, these schools are fine. Their teachers are communicating with students. But I mean, a few years ago when I wrote my first young adult book, I did this tour around the country, and I knew Kolkata would be great. I knew Delhi would be fine. Bombay, fine-ish. Chennai, always great. Bangalore, fine. The moment I went outside these cities, right? And I started asking the kids what Indian authors they'd heard of. Obviously, this gentleman here. Then it went to Chetan Bhagat, Amish Tripathi, right? I gave them a sort of passionate 1-hour lecture, not about my book, but about just why they should read fiction. And at the end of it, a skeptical young gentleman stood up and said, how will this help me get into IIT? And this was class 6, right? So there's a huge disconnect, I mean, just among schools in the country. But if you look on the internet, you'll find kids from everywhere have...
The mic is...
Oh, I'm done anyway.
So,
Well,
Mr. Bond.
no, I actually just want to say that I spoke in... I know that you were there. I spoke in front of 152 principals the other day, and the topic was, how can schools be more relevant in the 21st century? And I talked about what they should be doing with children, with parents, and with teachers. One thing is for sure, schools of today, especially at a certain socioeconomic level, have triggered a silent revolution whereby children are being heard and talked to and treated not top down, but as one-on-one. And every single child, I go to about 30, 40 schools a year, says that they love their school and that they have no fear talking to their teachers. The teacher's like a mentor, like an elder brother, sister. I mean, I'm not getting that touchy-feely, but you get my point. Those barriers have broken. And when I spoke to these principals, I said, congratulations, because you've triggered off a silent revolution where children are really happy to be in schools. I wasn't. I was happy if I had a rugby game or an elocution competition on that particular day. So that's happening. So I don't think children fear anymore to speak their minds in a classroom or outside a classroom. However, when it comes to what books are available for me and what films are available for me, that's not about teachers. That's not about institutions like schools and colleges. It's about some amorphous, those people sitting in Bombay or those publishers, and that's not in my hands. Children don't feel empowered enough to ask, and to, the way they do in class or outside class, they don't have that voice when it comes to asserting their desire for creative this and that. And I think maybe this is a good place to start telling you that you can, and to start suggesting to you how you can, to really build pressure and say, you cannot treat us like some sort of, afterthought.
So, Mr. Bond, you started writing at a very, very young age. And I remember you said that your first book sort of ended up in the dustbin because...
In my teacher's waste paper basket, actually.
Yes.
Well, of course, my advice to all of you is, if you're going to write stories, don't put your teachers in them, because if they read, they won't like it probably. But Rahul is quite right. Children, young people today are far more